Chapter 26. The Man in the White Shirt. 12:46 p.m. The man in the white shirt ducked his head into a tiny grocery store. Any chance I could use your phone? I lost mine back there somewhere. The grocer tried his phone on the counter and then shook his head. Everything's down. He reached into his pocket and held out his cell phone. Here, circuit's been jammed all morning, but maybe your luck is better than mine. The man in the white shirt dialed. His fingers were shaking as he pressed the keys. For a long time he heard nothing. Then the line came alive. He heard a click. His heart jumped in his throat. But an instant later, his fast, busy signal filled his ear. No luck, he murmured and handed the phone back. Wait! The grocer held out a bottle of water. The man in the white shirt fished in his pockets for change, but came up empty. The grocer waved him off and shoved the bottle into his hand. Please. Out on the sidewalk, the man in the white shirt opened the bottle of water and drank deeply. He hadn't realized how thirsty he'd become. He poured a little over his face and his hands and began to wipe away the grit. Something flopped to the ground beside him and landed with a hollow hump. He turned around to find a filthy gray bird flapping on the pavement at his feet. It was struggling, unable to fly, its bodies and wing coated in grime. The man in the white shirt bent down with the bottle and poured water over the bird's body. The bird turned strangely calm, giving in, standing as still as the dust ran off its feathers into dirty rivulets. When the bottle came dry, the man in the white shirt stepped back. The white snow dove now stood before him, glistening in the sun. The dove tested its wings with a couple of flaps and then soared away in the blinding flurry of white. Chapter 27. Friends. 1:07 p.m. Max snatched up the phone before the second ring. Bobby? He blurted. He tried to keep his disappointment out of his voice as he heard his oldest friend from the army days on the other end of the line, calling from California. Oh, hi, Charlie. Mac rubbed his eyes and paced back and forth from the kitchen. No, nothing yet. Yeah, Tower 1, the North Tower. No, it fell. It's the second. Yeah, I'm sure. Maybe that gave him more time. I know. I can't either. He glanced into the other room. Dottie was staring out the window, paying no attention to the nature documentary on her TV. Mac lowered his voice. No, she doesn't know. I doubt she understands it anyway, but the pictures would get to her worked up. Listen, I should probably ring off in case he tries to call. He listened, nodding. Yeah, I'll let you know as soon as I hear. Thanks for calling, Charlie. He swallowed hard and his voice cracked. You're a good friend. Chapter 28. Heroes. 1:07 p.m. Hello, my friends. Come in, the pizza man said to the three small faces staring from the sidewalk. A cloud of white dust puffed into the air as he slapped a ball of dough on the counter and began kneading it into a shape. The pizza man was an Indian named Patel. An Indian from India, he always laughed. Like everyone, he'd been glued to the news all day, watching on the tiny TV by a cash register. Now he flipped it off and waved them inside. Drinking a slice? Nunu nodded, Radar licking his chops. Alex read the sign taped to the register. Two slice and a Coke, $5.95. His stomach rumbled, but he shook his head. No thanks. I'm hungry, whispered Nunu. We don't have any money, Alex mumbled. Mr. Patel frowned. I see. Not even $1? Alex shook his head again, and Mr. Patel lifted his bushy black eyebrows. That's a shame, because today the lunch special is 2 for $1. Alex's stomach rumbled again. But, continued Mr. Patel, $1 special comes with a $1 rebate. Pay in advance. So, here you go. Your $1 rebate. He opened the till and plucked out $1 and handed it to Alex, and Alex took it confused. Ah, lunch for 2, sir. That will be $1. Mr. Patel took the dollar from Alex's hand and put it back in the till. Please sit anywhere you like. The tiny restaurant was called Antonio's Pizza di Napoli. Antonio's Pizza di Napoli. Mr. Patel had kept the name when he had bought it from Antonio 18 years ago. Alex settled them into the table by the window. The Indian pizza man didn't bat an eye as Radar followed them inside. Mr. Patel brought over their slices, piping hot and fresh from the oven. Blow on it first, Alex told Nunu, or you'll burn your mouth. Mr. Patel also set a bowl of meatballs on the floor for Radar, who sniffed at them once and drooled and hurried his muzzle to the bowl. Alex loved watching Radar eat. He loved everything about his dog. But he knew that if he ever hoped to see his father again, he'd have to take Radar home. He wished there were another way. Outside the window, a fire engine rolled slowly by. Alex counted 6 firefighters on that truck, 4 in the cab, 2 on the running seats, facing backwards. As they passed, one of the backwards-facing firemen looked over and met eyes with Alex. Alex raised his hand in a little wave. The fireman waved back with a smile. Alex wished he were the fireman right now. Then he could be a hero and go rescue his dad. Alex stared at the truck until it disappeared around the bend in the road. Can we have another? Nunu asked, snapping him back to reality. Coming right up, Mr. Patel replied, and put 2 slices on the oven before Alex could say no. Thank you, said Alex. Mr. Patel nodded seriously. It's the least I can do. Chapter 29. The Man in the White Shirt. 2:33 p.m. The man in the white shirt stared at the nurse. He had gone far out on his way to get to the hospital, even though it would take him even longer now to make it home. But it was the thought of home that drove him here in the first place, because it made him realize that as much as he needed his family, another family probably needed him more. I'm sorry, she repeated, but the blood bank is closed. We're not taking any more donations. But I'm O negative. Sir. It's universal. I know, but we're filled up. The bank can only handle a 3-day supply. Should I wait? For what? You need more once you start going through it. We're not going through it, she said. The nurse turned away quickly and began to shuffle through records like she was looking for something. The man in the white shirt stared at her back, and it didn't make any sense. But what about all the victims? They aren't... Her voice caught. They haven't brought us any. The man turned to the waiting room and saw what he'd missed. There were no gurneys rolling through the ER, no sick and wounded in pain. There was not a patient in sight. He knew that none would be coming. You want to help out where you're needed most, she asked. He turned. Go home. Go home. Chapter 30. Dead End. 3:10 p.m. Alex's misdeed flipped through his head like a slideshow as he thought about everything he had done wrong that day. How he'd broken his promise to go straight home. How he disobeyed his parents and picked up a dog. How he'd been messing around in the park and lost track of Nunu. How he lied to his mother. And how, worst of all, how 3 words spoken in anger had put his father in danger. He had to find Radar's home. It was the only way to set things right. Radar dropped the stick at Alex's feet and jumped back onto the couch, ready to play a game of fetch. Still, he was the same happy dog, but he didn't know that. He didn't know that Alex was about to give him away. Alex felt his ears go red as he flushed with shame. He threw the stick, but it felt like a lie. Alex, how come we're not in school today? 'Cause we got off early. Alex wished Nunu would stop asking him questions he was afraid to answer. Is Daddy coming home early? He didn't want her to lie. He didn't want to lie to her, but he couldn't tell her the truth. Sure, he nodded. Yay! It was the tiniest cheer ever, simple and sweet. Alex hoped he could make the promise to her true. Why are we stopping? Alex stared up at the street sign. His feet felt heavy and huge, like blocks of concrete. What does it say? Nunu had followed Alex's gaze and was staring at the street sign on the corner. Van Orton, he rambled. What does that mean? Alex looked down the street, a simple little frame houses, not so different from his own. He pulled out the piece of paper where the vet had written down Radar's address. He stared at it a long time. 417, Nunu repeated. What's that? 417 Van Orton Street, Radar's home. Nunu frowned. I thought he was going home with us. Radar pushed his big head against Alex's thigh. He's your birthday dog. Alex shook his head. I have to make it right. I have to. His view of the street turned blurry and wet. He blinked. His vision cleared and he looked at Radar. The dog stared at him with sad eyes. His tongue hung low. One ear was folded back, plastered to a sticky corner of the bandage on his head. Alex knelt down beside him, gently peeled his ear free, and pressed the bandage to its place. Then he threw his arms around the dog and pulled him close. I love you, boy, Alex whispered. Radar licked Alex's cheek, wiping away the salty tears. Nunu knelt down and hugged Radar too. Finally, Alex stood up. Come on, he waved Radar to follow, his voice gruff. Let's take you home. He lifted a heavy feet and forced himself to start down the street. Radar didn't move. Radar, let's go! Radar sat down. I have to take you home. That's the deal. Let's go. Radar lay down flat on the concrete. Alex came back. He begged Radar to get up. He pleaded for him to follow. And Radar didn't budge. Alex had to get this dog home. That was the deal. Desperate, he straddled the dog's back and slid his hands under his belly and scooped him into his arms so fast that he took Radar by surprise. The dog was suddenly airborne, held aloft, paws sticking out. Alex pulled him tight against his chest while Radar kicked in the air in front of him. Stop fighting me, Alex commanded as he staggered forward. That dog did not want to go down the street. Nunu walked slowly ahead, sadly reading off the address. 411, 413, 415. With Radar's back against his face, Alex couldn't see where he was going. He twisted his head so he could spot the curb beside him, and then followed the sound of Nunu's voice. The closer they got, the harder Radar fought. It was the second time Alex had to carry Radar today. His arms quivered from exhaustion, but he held on tight. 417, said Nunu. Radar gave a huge lunge. He arched his back and twisted free and then landed on all fours. Radar! Alex expected to hit him ground running. Instead, Radar circled around Alex and hid behind his leg. Alex didn't want to look. He already hated this house. Alex? Nunu tugged at his sleeve, and Alex couldn't put it off any longer. He turned to face 417 Van Orton. There was no house at 417 Van Orton. Whatever had been there had burned to the ground. All that remains was a charred foundation, a few black timbers, and the remains of a teetering brick chimney propped in the single 2x4. The chain link fence circled the lot, hung with no trespassing signs every 5 feet. Alex pressed against the fence. The sharp steel stung his finger, and he held tight as the world turned upside down. No! I did what I promised, he thought. I held up my end of the bargain. I brought the dog home, and Dad will be safe, and that was the deal. But how could he bring Radar home if Radar had no home? Radar watched along the fence until he found a narrow opening and squeezed through. Alex saw him too late. Radar, get back here! I'll get him, said Nunu, slipping easily through the hole in the fence. Nunu, get out! It's dangerous! She was inside before the words left his mouth. Alex dove after her and tried to squeeze under the fence, but he was too big. He clawed at the ground, peeling himself away from the dirt. The fence caught on his shirt, and he was stuck pinned on his belly. "Freeze! Don't move a muscle." It was a man's voice. Alex didn't recognize it, but it didn't sound friendly. Alex twisted, trying to get behind him. A surly old man stood above him, scowling down. His left hand hovered in his coat pocket. "Come on out of there, nice and slow." Alex tried again, but he couldn't budge. "I can't move. I'm stuck." "Good. That will make it easier for the cops." No, wait, it's not my... I'm sick and tired of you people always coming around to trash this place. And on a day like this, can't you show respect? I'm just trying to... How many more of you are there?" The man started to answer, just then realized if the man had asked, he hadn't seen Nunu. "Just me. I'm not the only one. I'm just the only one." And then Radar barked. The old man looked up as the dog came bounding over with Nunu on her heels. The man's expression changed completely. "Is that Radar?"